The right side of the heart is on the right, the left side of the heart is on the left. Okay. Let's name some structures. These top chambers are the atrium of the heart, and they collect blood that's either coming back from the body on the right side or from the lungs on the left side. Okay. Between the atria is a dividing line called the atrial septum. And septum is just another word for wall. The bottom two chambers, these are the ventricles. These are the pumping chambers of the heart. The right ventricle is the one that right now is large and doing all the work of the heart, really. And then the left ventricle, all of this is actually muscle. Right? And the left ventricle, you can see, is much smaller than the right ventricle. Okay. In addition, this valve that leads into the left ventricle is small and thick. Okay. And the valve, called the aortic valve, that leads out of the left ventricle is also small and thick. Okay. This muscle is the muscle that's not working well right now. Okay. So you can imagine that if your blood flow and you're cruising back to the left heart from the lungs, you meet a narrowing here. So you meet some resistance there. This isn't squeezing well, so you don't get propelled forward very well. And then you meet another resistance here through the aortic valve because it's narrow. So you can imagine how blood has a lot of things in its way from coming back to the lungs and going out to the aorta, which feeds things like the brain and other vital organs, okay? So basically, I can say with certainty that the left side of the heart isn't going to be sufficient after birth to do the work of sending all the oxygenated blood to the body. Okay? So you're probably wondering, well, if the blood is having difficulty getting out the normal pathway, where does it go when it comes back from the lungs? So some of it's squeaking through that way, but some of it is squeezing through this way, okay? But it's having a hard time squeezing through that way too. So that's a restrictive atrial septum. It's restricting blood from going across it. It's restricting blood from going across it. Okay. So let's start with right after birth. So the baby's problem right after birth is actually not going to be the whole left side that's not working well right away. Okay. That's not going to be the first problem. Okay. The first problem is when the baby takes his first breath, what'll happen is that all of a sudden the fetal lungs, which don't have a lot of blood flow in them at all, they all of a sudden get filled with blood because the baby's taking first breath. The baby wants to put oxygen into that blood, right? So fetus breathes in, all this blood starts going out to the lungs to pick up oxygen to come back to the heart, okay? So now, all of a sudden, there was a small amount of blood trying to squeeze out these two holes. Now there's a ton of blood, okay? It's going to have a really hard time going out either one of those. What that does, these roadblocks, causes the blood to back up into the lungs and make the lungs very wet and make it hard for the baby to breathe through all that wetness, okay? So I suspect that soon after your baby's birth, it's quite possible that an emergency procedure is going to need to be done to open up this hole, okay? Maybe, maybe not. You never really know until the baby's born. But what it would be is they take a catheter, which is a long, thin tube that they feed into the blood vessels from down in the groin or the belly button. They feed it across this hole. They inflate the balloon over here, and then they use the balloon to tear that hole bigger. So that first procedure is called a balloon atrial septostomy, basically yanking a hole in that atrial septum. Okay, and I'll write